Hello and welcome to Behind the Bet with sportsbet.ai. My name's Gavin from Clubhouse TV and I will be asking your questions to our very special guest today. Now, our guest had a distinguished career making his debut as a teenager for Leeds United, later going on to play for Spurs and Blackburn Rovers, finishing his career at Burnley and representing England 41 times. And even though his job was to keep balls out the back of his net, he currently holds the record for the third longest goal ever scored in the Premier League. Welcome into the Clubhouse, Behind the Bet with sportsbet.ai, Paul Robinson. And welcome along to a very special Behind the Bet with sportsbet.ai. My name's Gavin from Clubhouse TV, and I'll be asking your questions to our special guest today. Now, you've heard the introduction. What I will say, of course, is that for every question I ask to our guest today, Mr. Paul Robinson, you'll see him shortly, you will win a 10 USDT free bet. But also, with Paul's picks later on, if you get at least 2 out of 3 questions correct, you will also win a 10 USDT free bet. So the first thing I should do right now is introduce the guest. Welcome to the Clubhouse, Mr. Paul Robinson. How are you, sir?
Very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. First question is always the most important. How are you?
Yeah, good.
All good?
Yeah, fed up with this cold, wet weather at the moment. Not getting on the golf course enough. But other than that, it's a pleasure to be here.
We've already spoken, haven't we, about the fact that you are a big lover of golf.
Yeah.
And I said to you, look, I love golf as well, and I have sadly an instant hatred for people who can play golf better than me, which appears to be you, because you're quite handy at golf, aren't you?
Well, it's a frustrating level. I mean, it's the most frustrating game in the world, like we talked about earlier. Some days good, some days bad. You get down to a decent handicap, and it's a game that you've got to play all the time if you're going to get better at it.
Yeah. How often do you play, by the way? And are you one of those sports people that is multi-talented at different sports? So clearly you're very good at football. Clearly you're very good at golf as well. Are you one of those that literally there's a number of sports that you're very good at?
I think it comes with professional sportsmen and women. I think it's hand-eye coordination more than anything. Obviously, as Father Time catches up with you, you very quickly depreciate your quality in certain sports. I've got a love of paddle tennis at the moment, playing a lot of paddle tennis. I love it. You just looked at me really weird.
Yeah, because you said paddle tennis. My instant head went, what on earth is that? So you're going to have to explain.
A very quick explanation. It's tennis in a glass box, played with bigger rackets, softer rackets, like foam rackets, and it's same rules as tennis. Underarm serves, very similar sized court without the tram lines for doubles, and it's a doubles game played in a glass box. Basically, the rules are, if it hits the floor, it's in. And then from then, it's free-for-all, game on.
It sounds like a combination of squash meets tennis. Would be fair?
Yeah, that's a fair description of it.
First question for me then. Okay. Where the show goes, nobody knows. I don't know what questions you're coming your way from the sportsbet.io viewers, but also I don't know sometimes what questions pop up in my head, and this is one of them. If you could have had a glamorous career as a footballer, as you did, or could have had a glamorous career as a golfer, which one would you have chosen?
Oh, golf all day long.
Yeah,
golf, absolutely. I mean, I'm very, very fortunate in what I've done, and my fantastic career that I look back on, and been very, very privileged to do what I've done. But it's, as a fan, there's football fans who would love to be footballers, and I've been a golf fan for years, and you just watch, it's probably not all glitz and glamour, the lifestyle they've got. They're travelling all year round, they're away from their family. The personal life is very different to one of a person who's at home, and they spend a lot of time living out of a suitcase in a hotel. But travelling the world playing golf, sign me up for that.
There's actually a documentary coming out on Netflix about golf. I don't know if you've seen that coming out, which is literally the insight of what it is to be a professional golfer, and you'll see all that behind the scenes stuff, what it is to be a golfer. I'm going to talk about you and your football career. Before we get to the questions from sportsbet.io customers and viewers who are tuned in right now, and thank you for doing so, I want to take you back to you coming through the ranks at Leeds United, and when you were coming through at Leeds, because we had David O'Leary in as a previous guest on Behind the Bet when Leeds United were riding really high. You're talking finishing top 4, top 5 Premier League. You're talking Champions League semi-finals, glamorous European nights, and then there was a bit of a decline for Leeds United. And would it be fair to say that kind of you came in at the time where it all started to go just slightly wrong for Leeds United.
It sounds like you're blaming me.
I'm not blaming.
I think you've been very kind by saying slightly wrong. I think 16 years out the Premier League and down to League One is more than slightly wrong.
Can I just lay claim that it's not your fault, right? I am not blaming you at all for it at all.
I was there till the end. I stayed. I was one of the last ones out the door in the fire sale.
It is a combination of things, but you were there when Terry Venables came in. You started at Leeds under David O'Leary, and then lots of people left. I mean, you're talking the likes of, your full season in charge of being number one. You got the likes of Robbie Keane, Olivier De Corley, Bowyer, Rio Ferdinand, Harry Kewell, all leaving that. What was that like at that time?
It was difficult. I mean, it was hard because you didn't realise at one point what financial state the club was in. I mean, I signed for Leeds when I was 14 for Howard Wilkinson as a schoolboy, with Bill Fotherby and Leslie Silver in charge of the club, and then to get all the way to the semi-final of the Champions League, and then to see the decline of the club. I mean, I was there 10 years, from 14, and I left at 24. So I saw the good, the very good, the bad, and the very, very bad. But it was a case of when we were coming into training, and like the transfers, when the windows were open and the time of transfers were happening, it was like, oh, are you still here? Oh, surprised you're here. And it was a case of not knowing who was going to be in the building the next day, because everyone was for sale, because it got that bad. I mean, we stayed up under Peter Reid. I think it was when we won away at Arsenal 3-2, that great Mark Viduka goal, and that kept us in the Premier League for another year. And then we thought, oh, great, Premier League revenue coming in, things might be different next year. But it just went from bad to worse, and it was amazing to learn as a player. And there was a point where we had to defer wages. I remember Gordon Taylor coming in from the PFA. Club couldn't afford to pay us wages, so we had to kind of sign all documents, and they would back pay us in 2-3 months' time when the club had the money to pay you. Yeah, it wasn't a good time. I mean, especially so young in my career. The grounding and the experiences that I had, certainly I didn't have as many or the same going forward. How
difficult is it when players... I get that not all players get on, and not all players in a football team are best mates, but they're still your colleagues, and there's some that you are close to. How difficult is it when they suddenly do disappear? And how difficult is it for you not knowing if you're going to be the next one who is going? And you've got your family settled, you're nice and settled where you are, but you could be going in a matter of weeks. How difficult is all that?
Well, Leeds accepted a bid for me from Aston Villa at the time. I think David O'Leary was in charge at Aston Villa. It was David. And the season that we talked about there, when we stayed up, they accepted a bid for me from Aston Villa, and my wife was pregnant at the time, my first daughter. Leeds were in the Premier League, and in my situation, I didn't want to go. I wanted to stay. There was a lot of talk about the financial demands and et cetera, but it had nothing to do with that at all. It was just a stage of my life where my team that brought me through the academy was still in the Premier League. It wasn't right for me at personal life at that time, and I turned the move down and I didn't go. And I mean, in hindsight, the year after we got relegated, and I went to Tottenham.
Yeah. Notable results in your first season as number one at Leeds, though. You mentioned the 3-2 win at Highbury. You also beat Man United at home at Ellen Road that season. Do you remember what the scoreline was?
I can't remember what happened yesterday. Never mind that long ago.
This is going to be fun later then. It was you beat Man United 1-0 at home.
1-0.
And you also beat Chelsea at home 2-0 at Ellen Road as well. And Peter Reid's first game in charge was a 6-1 win at Charlton, if I remember.
Yeah, I remember that game.
Some notable results. We're going to crack on with the questions, because we've had so many questions coming in for you. So as I said, I'll just repeat that every single person who gets their question, I'm going to try and get through as many as I can, but every single person who gets their question asked by me to Paul, you'll see the question pop up on screen, will win a 10 USDT free bet. That free bet will credited into your account within 48 hours. So it is time to ask Paul. Right, as I've said, where the show goes, nobody knows. Are you braced? Are you ready?
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, good. Right, bring on question number 1, please, for Paul Robinson in the Clubhouse. This is a question from Viv. Who do you think... Oh, here we go, straight in there. Who do you think is the best goalkeeper in the world currently? And I love this part of the question. What makes them better than other goalkeepers?
I think we're fortunate in the Premier League. We've got a number of top quality goalkeepers in the Premiership. And I think this season, not looking particularly to dig at Liverpool, but their poor form this season has highlighted one thing, how good Alisson is.
Yeah.
I mean, we know the role of a goalkeeper has changed since I played. Now it's so much more involvement with the back four, with your feet. I mean, we used to put it on the 6-yard line and kick it as far as you can. Now they're doing Cruyff turns in the edge of the box and passing the ball out. If I did anything like that when I played, the manager would take me off. I mean, it's unthinkable to do. So the role's very, very different. I think with Alisson and Edison, I think for me, Alisson's the better one of the two. I think he's an all-round goalkeeper. I think we lose the art of goalkeeping when we come to talk about goalkeepers. Your job is to keep the ball out of the net. Yes, there's other aspects of it as well, but Alisson does that. He keeps the ball out of the net. His shot-stopping ability, he commands his box, and he can play with his feet. He can do everything. I like Jan Oblak at Atletico Madrid. I think he's been a top-class goalkeeper for a long time. And Manuel Neuer has stood the test of time. The hardest thing is being at the top level for a long, long time. And Manuel Neuer's probably been the best there has been because he's evolved. As the game's evolved, as the role of a goalkeeper's changed, he's evolved with it. So I think he's probably up there.
Who is the best English goalkeeper right now for you?
Nick Pope. In current form.
You know very well because you worked together at Burnley.
Yeah, know him very well. Great lad. He came to Burnley. Me and Tom Heaton were there. He came as a number 3. You could see instantly in training. He was raw, rough around the edges. Billy Mercer worked hard with him, with his feet, with his kicking, his distribution, his footwork around the goal. But he'd make saves like we're seeing at Newcastle. He'd pull saves out the top corner, in and around him. He's a big unit. He's so tall, is Popey. But what he does is he adapts so well. So people say, oh, he doesn't get down, he can't get down around him. He can. He'll use his feet. He'll use the bottom of his arms. You see him make very, very different saves. I'm a big fan of Jordan Pickford's. I think he's done excellently well for England, and every time England have played in a big game, he's stood up, and I think it's time for him now to move on. I think he looks at the England team, sees his mates playing in the Champions League, competing for trophies, and I think come the end of this season, he's got to be looking to do that if he's going to progress his own career. On current form, Popey is the best English goalkeeper that we have.
Where would Aaron Ramsdale? Because it's always, if you talk about goalkeepers who are English, it's those 3, isn't it, at the moment? I mean, England are blessed. We are blessed to have so many goalkeepers to choose from with Pickford, Ramsdale and Pope. In what order would you put that?
And you've got Henderson as well.
And you've got Dean Henderson as well.
You know, this is the strongest cluster of English goalkeepers that we've had for a long time. And I think they're all of a level where you wouldn't worry if any of them were playing as England's number 1. Ramsdale, I think he's had a great first season at Arsenal. Got through a lot of that with adrenaline. He's now got the test of doing it again this season. I think he's more than capable of doing it. I think you see his mentality at times. I think he gets drawn into it a little bit like Jordan Pickford used to do. I know that Jordan's worked hard at himself on and off the field, and you see a different mentality to that. And I think that'll come into Aaron's game as well. And like I said to you, I genuinely wouldn't worry if anyone were pulling on the England jersey. Yeah.
The thing with goalkeepers as well, you started as a teenager at Leeds United. You came through and secured the number 1 jersey at Ellen Road very young in your career. Aaron Ramsdale has been there and done it, played football at a young age. When did you feel, and when do you feel a goalkeeper really hits their prime? Because I think in past, people say, well, it might even be early 30s.
I don't think it matters now. I think it's the attitude towards goalkeepers and towards football in general is if you're good enough, you're old enough. I mean, you see goalkeepers making the debut more and more. It's a vital position on the field, which is why managers generally want tried and tested and trusted goalkeepers. But if you've got a good goalkeeper, why not put him in? I mean, I was given my opportunity at 17 through luck. I mean, Nigel Martin got injured. That week, Mark Beanie hadn't played. He was the number 2 goalkeeper. He hadn't played for so long, so decided to play in a reserve game midweek and ruptured his Achilles. So all of a sudden, David O'Leary was left with Thursday, Friday to get another goalkeeper, or it was me. And that's how you get your opportunity with a bit of luck.
How did that make you feel? Do you remember how nervous you potentially were or excited to bring on the game?
Yeah, it was a combination of both, a combination of nerves and excitement. But at that age, you feel you're ready because you're not scarred. You're unaware. It's everything that you've wanted. You've got no scars. There's no mental scars. You've not made a mistake. You think this is everything that you've worked all your life for, and you get the opportunity. But it's at home against Chelsea on Saturday afternoon. And then, so the Thursday, Friday, I'm just hoping that he didn't sign a goalkeeper, in all honesty.
And he did fairly well in your debut as well.
Kept a clean sheet.
Kept a clean sheet. Right. That's all you can ask for. That's all you can ask for. Right. Thank you for Viv. 10 USDT free bet on the way to you. Right. Question number 2 for Paul Robinson, please, who's in the clubhouse. Question from Giza Fielstein, I think it is. Why is Neville Southall such an important hero in your life? Because he is your idol. He's your goalkeeping idol.
I wouldn't say he was an important person in my life, but he was somebody that I took inspiration from as a youngster. I used to love watching him at Everton, and I think, no disrespect to Wales, if he played for a greater nation, I think he'd have had a lot more recognition than he did. You talk to a lot of people about the people that played with him, people that trained with him, his work ethic, and he was different. He didn't do things by the book. And I think the biggest one, another one of my heroes, is Peter Schmeichel. who came in with his handball technique, and you taught as a goalkeeper how to move with your feet, how to move with your hands, how to catch a ball. Neville Southall and Peter Schmeichel didn't. They did it their way, but they kept the ball out the net doing it their way. Neville Southall's distribution, he used to hold it in one hand and do that half volley that you could ping up the pitch, and his half volley was brilliant. Peter Schmeichel's distribution, throwing the ball. And I just think you could take so much from people like that. Neville especially, when I was younger, you can watch him, and he's such an individual character. And do it your way. Be good at doing it, but do it your way. And Neville and Peter were two great examples of that.
Yeah, as you said, you got your chance at 17. You were a teenager when you started to really break in at Leeds. Were you still continuously all the way through your career keeping an eye on other goalkeepers, their technique, and thinking, I might incorporate that or try? Or is there a certain point where you just think, look, I'm Paul Robinson, I am me, that's it?
Goalkeeping is very individual. You have a lot of it is natural ability, and you kind of mould yourself. Subconsciously, you learn. I mean, I had a great mentor, Nigel Martin. I mean, Nigel still lives near me now. I still see him on a Saturday. We have a drink together on a Saturday every now and then. He signed for the club when I signed for the club. And subconsciously, I couldn't have had a better role model, because you watch him every day. Without knowing, you watch the way he looks after his kit. You watch how he does his boots, what he does with his gloves. Does he wash his gloves? What he does in training, how he moves. And you mould yourself on the people around you subconsciously. So to surround yourself by good people and good professionals is vitally important at that age.
And do you automatically get better when you play with better players? I remember David Seaman talking about when he broke into the England side, and there's, he's obviously sharing the training ground with the likes of Peter Shilton. Yeah. And you're thinking, wow. And then does that automatically raise your game? That, playing with better players and watching them, being with them day in, day out?
Absolutely it does, because, that's the standards you've got to be at, and that's the standards you set yourself. With Nigel, and then you train with the first team when you're a youngster, you train with the first team at a young age, and then you go on to another level because you see the pace of the ball, the speed of the ball, the way that they're training, and you see the level that you have to get to.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Right, question number 3 on this Behind the Bet with sportsbet.io with Paul Robinson. Question from Lebronium. I didn't think it'd be... Now, goalkeepers, we generally talk about goalkeepers for shots that they've saved. And occasionally the mistakes. I said this to you off air as well. The problem with goalkeepers, we do talk about the mistakes that they make as well. And we will talk about, 1 or 2 that you made that I think, 1, you were extremely harshly done for as well. But we're also, with you, going to talk about goals. What do you think about that legendary goal you scored v Watford?
That was lucky. I mean, I was fortunate enough to score 2 in my career. One was intended. The other one was a lucky punt up the field against Watford. It was at the time we were playing. I think Mido was the striker. So you look to hit Mido and hit the long ball down the field. And Mido was one of these strikers that if it didn't land in his vicinity, he wasn't doing much to move and try and help you out. So it missed him. Took a great bounce on the pitch and unfortunately went over Ben Foster's head.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, I'll sit here now, hold my hands, it was a complete fluke.
3rd longest goal scored in the Premier League.
Yeah, it's not a bad record.
96 yards.
96 yards.
Do you have any idea who scored goals that are longer?
I guess it's going to be goalkeepers.
2 goalkeepers.
Asmir Begovic.
Asmir Begovic, 97.5 yards.
Yeah, I've done some research.
Yeah, Stoke versus Southampton. He scored it after just 13 seconds.
Yeah, I remember it.
So imagine if you're the Southampton goalkeeper.
13 seconds.
13 seconds, you've been conceded a goal from best part of 98 yards. You're thinking, well, that's made me think of another question I'll ask shortly as well. The other number 1? Everton?
Tim Howard.
Oh, look at this.
Was it?
102 yards.
That's a long way, isn't it?
Which for you is probably a half pitching wedge, something like 102 yards?
About a 3/4 wedge, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it might be.
Maybe a 54.
The thing about Ben Foster is the interesting thing about Ben Foster conceding that goal. I've heard him talk about it, and he's like, it took a funny bounce. He thought that his defender, a guy called Danny Shittu, was going to head it.
Yeah.
He didn't.
Yeah.
It then took an almighty great big bounce, and he's thought, that's beat me. But you and Ben Foster were meeting up fairly soon afterwards with the England squad, and the talk at that time is, who's the England number 1? Is it Paul Robinson? Is it Ben Foster? And you scored against the other one.
No, I was playing for England at the time, and like the English press do, and I wasn't playing particularly well, in all honesty, at that time. And the whole build up to that game was me and Ben Foster. Ben Foster was going to join the England camp. He's playing really well at Watford, playing probably the best of his career, and he was going to be taking my England jersey in the next games, if you like, because I wasn't playing well. and then stuck the goal past him. And if you watch it, it was just a bounce. I mean, he's in a bad position because of where his defender is. He's expecting his defender to head it, like he said. So he's taking up a position expecting the defender to head it. I think it was windy as well on the day. It's gone over the back of the defender's head, and as the defender's not headed it, Ben's in the wrong position, and it's taking that bounce, and it's just one of them things.
He's also very thankful that you didn't rib him about it.
No, I mean,
you wouldn't. It's a fluke.
Well, there is a goalkeepers union. There is, and there's a friendly rivalry. But I mean, what can I say? It was just luck.
Yeah. What did he say to him? Unlucky.
I can't remember, but the one thing I can remember about that, I've still got all the stuff. I've got all the kit, the boots, the gloves, and the ball, thankfully.
Really?
But the ball, there's a story about the ball. So I'm sat in the dressing room, taking all my kit off. I said to the kit man, I said, I'll have my boots, I'll have my gloves, put them all in the bag. He went, where's the ball? I went, I don't know. He said, have you not got it? The referee not brought it in. He went, no, I'll go and find it. So he goes out, 20 minutes later, comes back, panting, like that. The ball under his arm. I went, where have you been? He went, in the car park. The referee had it. He was taking it home in the car. So he ran out into the car park to get me the ball back.
Brilliant. I also want to talk about your other goal, which is far better because this was a striker's goal, which is your... so basically, we're going back to Leeds United against Swindon Town. It's a League Cup it's a League Cup game, isn't it? I'm not sure. It's not a semi-final. It's earlier on in the competition. But Swindon are 2-0 up with 15 minutes left to play at Ellen Road.
Yeah.
I think it's Ian Hart who pulled a goal back, and then it's like 93rd minute, and there's a corner, and you've gone up.
Yeah.
And you've made a near post run, and there's a glancing header that scored. It is a superb run. It is a superb header. It is, I'm going to say now, probably the best goal that a goalkeeper scored.
I'm very proud of that one. I am. As much as the other one was luck, that was just a Royal Rovers moment. So, I mean, you create the scene. At Leeds at the time, we were banging trouble. Peter Reid had come in. We were right down the bottom of the Premier League, and we were looking like we were going to go out the League Cup to lowly Swindon. We get back in the game. I'm looking at Peter Reid. I come out the box, and I'm looking over to him, and he's just like this on the touchline. He doesn't want to acknowledge me. And I'm thinking, Gaffer, can I go? Can I go? And he just doesn't look, and I've just gone. And then the first corner they've put in, they've hit it short, hit the front man. So I'm thinking, do I go back? Do I stay? What do I do? I'm kind of lost. So I've just kind of run out the box and then run back in and then time my run. But as goalkeepers, we do that in training all the time because we practice crossing with the other goalkeepers. We'll train in a group of 4 or 5. So as the one goalkeeper's training, the crosses are coming in from the coach. You're in there actively trying to attack. So we do a lot of crossing and finishing. But for me, scoring a goal like that, I mean, no save, whatever save you make at whatever stage of the game, whether it be a penalty, a match saving, winning save, there's no feeling like that, honestly, to score a goal. I know it's different for a goalkeeper, but the feeling to score a goal is incredible.
But then you followed it up because, of course, you equalised. It's a wonderful goal. It's a great header. But all you did was take it to extra time.
Yeah.
And then it went to penalties. Yeah. And then you saved a penalty, which actually meant that Leeds went through. So you rescued this situation and then won the day with a penalty as well. So it's cherry on top, wasn't it?
It was literally the Roy of the Rovers evening for me. You couldn't, I mean, if you read a comic book, you'll think, oh, it's a bit far-fetched. I've got the newspaper clippings still at home and in a frame downstairs in one of the rooms at home. Do
you show it your kids? Do you play it your kids every now and then going, look at what your dad did, this is how you score a goal?
Well, my two they're now 19 and 15, so I think they give me more abuse than anything else.
Brilliant. Thank you. By the way, the person who missed the penalty, remember the person who missed the penalty against you for Swindon in the penalty shootout?
No.
It's a guy called Stefan Migliarenzi, who later went on to be a teammate of David Beckham's LA Galaxy.
Well, I know one of the guys who played for Swindon. He's a friend of Phil Jagielka's.
Yeah.
So I was over in Qatar working for a broadcaster out there. Phil came over and his friend came with him, and he went, I was supposed to mark you in that header and I didn't get anywhere near you.
Brilliant. Thank you. Another question for Paul Robinson, please. Question from Boy from Austria. If you wanted to play for a different country, which country would it be? See, this is where the show goes. Nobody knows. Random.
That is a random one. I mean, I wouldn't because I'm so patriotic about my own country. I'm very, very patriotic. Even now when you're watching your own country, regardless of what it is. And I think what tournament is, what sport it is, whatever team it is, you back your own country.
Yeah.
And I think to have any other kind of allegiances, I mean, I'm not one of these that's got a little bit of Irish, a little bit of Welsh. I'm 100% English. And there was never any question that I would play for England if there was an opportunity to do so. And I'm not one of these people who don't want Scotland to win or don't want Wales to win, because we know that in the UK quite often, if England are playing, Scotland and Wales fans, they don't want the English teams to do well. I like all the home nations to do well, but I certainly wouldn't and couldn't play for another country. But I do like seeing our home nations do well.
Which I've always thought, and I'm patriotic as well, and I always think that we have a really good. Not always, but I generally think we're good at producing good goalkeepers in England. But is there another nation that you think they're also good at producing good quality goalkeepers? Is there any other nation that jumps out at you?
Yeah, Italy have had a few over the years, haven't they? Yeah, the
Buffon
Italians.
As well.
Yeah,
Donnarumma.
There's a lot. I mean, even now, but then you look back over the Italian history. Italians have had good goalkeepers. You say that about English goalkeepers, and I completely agree with you. But we don't export well. When was the last English goalkeeper that went abroad and did well? We haven't really had them.
Has there ever been?
That's gone abroad and done well? No, because foreign managers
Joe
seem to have a different view of English goalkeepers. You look at when I was at Tottenham and one day Ramos came in a similar way as when Pep Guardiola came in with Joe Hart at Man City. Preconceived ideas, don't like the way he plays, don't like this, wasn't for me, and was quickly moved on. And that's what happened with me at Tottenham. But I think you look at English goalkeepers, there is not a history of English goalkeepers going abroad and doing well.
I'd never thought about that. I'm now thinking about it.
Scott Carson, I think, went to Turkey, played in recent times.
Yeah, and also the fact that, of course, look at the goalkeepers who are playing for Liverpool and Man City right now. I mean, when Pep came in at Man City, there was an English goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Moved on. Right, thank you. Another question for Paul. Here we go. It's Paul Robinson in the Clubhouse. Here we go. Question from Chi. Right, which of your goalkeeping mistakes was the most painful one, and how did you cope with it?
Well, everyone's a goalkeeper mistake, but the high-profile one was the England game against Croatia when the ball went over my foot.
I have an issue with this.
I still have an issue. It's Gary Neville's fault. It's not my fault.
You're just an innocent bystander in all that.
So what happened is I've gone to kick the ball, and the ball's not there because it's hit something on the pitch.
Yeah.
And if I was given that opportunity to kick that ball 100 times, the same thing would happen every time if it bobbles like that, unless you know that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So what it's happened is, for those of you who didn't see it, it was a back pass from Gary Neville, and it hit one of my foot marks. So where I was kicking the ball from the 6-yard box, constantly kicking from the same place, there'd been an indentation and the pitch had risen. So the Gary Neville played the back pass, it hit the lump of my footprint and went over my foot and straight in the goal. He should have passed wide of the goal. But I mean, you look at the modern day goalkeepers, they'd be taking touches and playing out from the back, whereas the initial thought was I was getting closed down, it's going down the field.
Yeah.
So I didn't really, I'm quite good at putting things in boxes and dealing with situations. So after that game's finished, I'm thinking, right, okay, that wasn't great, this, that, and the other. Mrs. phones me up after the game, and I'm talking to her, and she's like, are you all right? I'm like, yeah, fine, yeah, why, what's up? She went, are you sure you're all right? I went, yeah, fine. She went, you've got no idea what's going on, have you? Obviously, before like the phones, the newspapers and everything like that. She went, you're getting absolute pelters from left, right and centre. And it wasn't until the next morning I drove out the gate to go training back at Tottenham at the time. There was reporters outside the gate. There's people everywhere. And I think being labelled as that mistake on me, you don't understand, because that's all the time in my career, you're always on an upward curve. So you're a young lad at Leeds, you do well, you get your debut, you play in the Premier League, you get your move to Tottenham, you play for England, and everything's a smooth upward curve. Then all of a sudden this just goes bang. Nobody teaches you how to deal with it. And mentally, it's very, very tough, because I'd like to think I'm quite an open, honest person, and I'm actually a decent bloke. But it plays tricks with you. I mean, you drop the kids off at school and there's 4 women stood talking, or 4 dads, whoever stood talking, and you're thinking, are they talking about me? Are they looking? You go to the supermarket and you're thinking, is somebody going, there's that idiot from who did that last week? And the effect that it has on you mentally is more so than ever. And then you go into a football stadium the next Saturday, there's 50,000 people reminding you what you did, going, woo, every time the ball comes near you. So for me, it was a huge time in my career, because that affected me mentally for about 18 months.
Yeah, and I think it's harsh because it is not your fault. And I'm saying this not because you're sat just 5 feet the other side of me and you can do something about it. If I said, yes, it's clearly your fault, it clearly isn't. And that's the harsh bit about it. There's nothing you could have done about it. At all.
Listen, I've played the situation over in your head a million times. I mean, if I'd have known it was going to happen, you can wait and anticipate the bobble's going to happen and lift your foot. But again, if you go to kick a football and it's not there, we've seen it in the Premier League, haven't we? Do you remember Tim Flowers at Blackburn?
He knelt
bent down and
it's gone over him, and there's nothing he could do about it. He's ready to collect it. It just hits a divot, goes over his shoulder. There's nothing he can do about it.
It looks funny, and there's a scapegoat, isn't there? And there's a reason why. And the level of abuse, and I mean, I don't do social media now. I've got a Twitter account, but I don't very use it, not personally anyway. And I think if Twitter and social media was a thing back then, I dread to think what potential abuse that I'd have got.
So we had Jonathan Woodgate in here a few months ago, and he gets asked a lot about his Real Madrid debut, own goal, sent off. And he turns around and says, well, talk to me about your Real Madrid debut.
That's a very, very good point, isn't it?
At least he had one.
Yeah.
And at least you've represented England,
yeah.
you know? So all these people talking about you, they could not dream of doing what you've done. That's how I think about it.
That's a great line from Woody as well.
It's
very good line.
It?
I've got one of his Real Madrid shirts at home. I'll remember that next time we see him.
Right. Another question for Paul Robinson. Question from Navidart. At which club did you enjoy your career the most? Good question.
Yeah, really good question. I've got a real affinity to Leeds and Tottenham. I think I wouldn't have had my career if it wasn't for Leeds United. The grounding that I had, the academy, the upbringing that I had, the people that I've been with and that I learnt from at Leeds, yes. And still living in the area, that's the club that I get back to the most, see most games. Working in the media now, it's probably the ground that I visit the most in the team. As an affinity, I don't really have an affinity because you don't once you've played, really. But the best football of my career and the most enjoyable time was at Tottenham, without a doubt. Blackburn, I mean, people don't remember. I spent 7 years at Blackburn.
Yeah.
Well, people just remember that I played for Leeds and Tottenham. I spent 7 years at Blackburn. Six of them were very happy.
You made more appearances for Blackburn Rovers than any other club.
No, so like I say, 7 years I spent there, and 6 were very happy. I mean, with all the change of ownership and another club behind the scenes that wasn't particularly run very well, made the last year disappointing, and the way that my career came to an end at Blackburn wasn't how I'd want it to be. Hence the reason that when my contract finished, I kind of almost retired.
Mm-hmm. One of the things doing the research about you, and I've studied you intensively for the last 3-4 days, is the fact that the fans took to you wherever you went. That's the one thing that comes across, that wherever you went, the fans took to you.
I had a great relationship with the fans wherever I was. And I think they can just see your commitment, how much it means to you personally. The Tottenham fans, I think, was the most special relationship that I had. And it's difficult as players because you after games you go over and you clap the fans. And for me, that wasn't, oh, look at me, weren't we great today? Look what we did today on the pitch. That's from my point of view to them, that's thank you for giving up your Saturday. Thank you for spending your 50, 60 quid on a ticket. Thank you for filling your car up with petrol, spending your money on a train ticket, whatever you've done. Thank you for making the effort to come and watch that. So win, lose or draw, I'd always go over. And it wasn't never about what we'd done on the pitch. If you had a good game and you had a great result, yeah, go and enjoy it with the fans. But actually, we were awful today. We were rubbish today. But by the way, thank you very much for coming and doing what you've done.
I think you were always going to have a fairly good time at Spurs, because is it true that when you signed for Spurs and you had the old publicity shots, that there was someone quite special having a tour of the stadium? Is this correct?
Neville Southall.
You bumped into Neville Southall
on the day I signed for Spurs. Neville was there. So Neville does a lot of work with underprivileged kids and different types of charities, and he had a group of the children that he works with. He'd taken them to White Hart Lane that day to have a tour of the stadium and a look around. So it was all supposed to be about me, my big media day, my revealing, and I'm too interested in going to speak to Neville Southall and get his autograph and speak to him.
You still got that
shirt?
So
I've got the Tottenham shirt that I did my picture with. I got him to sign for me and everything, and it was just a nice day for me. I'll always remember the day that I signed for Spurs because Neville was there. But that was the second time I signed for Spurs almost, because Leeds sold me in the January window. The deal was done. So the January before the summer I signed, I was down in London. I'd done my medical. It was getting to like the 11th hour. Everything was done. The paperwork was done. Everything was agreed. I'd been in London for the last 24, 48 hours. Was with Daniel Levy, John Alexander. Deal was done. I was going. They put the papers in, and Leeds at that time, because they were in such a mess, hadn't got their ducks in a row. They had too many players on loan because they wanted to loan me back for the rest of the season. So I'd been to Tottenham, done everything, and then at the final, it goes, falls flat on its face. Daniel Levy turns around to me and says, "Okay, no problem." Shook my hand, said, "We'll see you in the summer." And he was good to his word. I mean, I went back to Leeds, conceded about 60 goals, got relegated, and he came back and signed, and he still come back and signed me.
Brilliant. Did they sign you cheaper as well? Was it 2.5 million when they were going to sign in January, but 1.5 million when they did?
Yeah, I think it probably was. That's probably Daniel's move anyway.
Okay, brilliant. Or the 60 goals. One of those that you conceded. Right, anyway, thank you. Another question for Paul. Here we go. Question from Viperius. Do you know of any unknown goalkeeping stars? So these are people who are not names in football right now. And what characteristics do you look for in a great goalkeeper? I like this one. The up-and-comers, I call them.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of good kids about at the moment. There is a lot. Nobody that initially springs to mind, but I've watched a lot of Championship football, 23s football. You can tell a good goalkeeper. This is going to sound really funny just by the way that they look. So when I was at Blackburn at Tottenham, you'd have goalkeepers that come in on trial from different clubs, from different countries, and immediately within 30 seconds of them walking out and catching one football, you can tell straight away whether he's going to be decent or not. And there's just a certain personality, certain trait. It's very, very difficult. It's an aura. It's something that goalkeepers have to have, and it's very hard to put your finger on. Technique is vitally important, the way that the head's in line with catching the ball, and you can pick a goalkeeper generally very, very quickly like that.
I like goalkeepers who are sweeper keepers, the ones who read the game very well and come out their box. There was a goalkeeper I really took a shine to. It was Accrington at home to Leeds in the FA Cup.
Yeah,
Accrington
he had a great game, didn't he? Had a really good game.
Yeah.
I mean, no disrespect to Accrington, but you can see him moving on up the leagues.
And he's only 21.
Yeah, he was excellent. And that's the hardest thing as a goalkeeper is depth perception.
Yeah.
So the through ball, as you know, you played in goal, the long straight ball through, the sweeper keeper behind, getting the decision right, whether to come or stay, is one of the hardest things, because that straight ball is the hardest one to pick.
And people don't realise it. People just see a keeper coming out, kicking the ball away, not realising what actually a fraction of a second you've got to make that decision.
You get a split second to make most decisions.
And if you get it wrong, you're looking absolute fool.
Yeah, you're either in no man's land, you're sent off, or it's past you.
Exactly right. Thank you. Good question. Right, another question for Paul Robinson, behind the bet with sportsbet.io. Genetics. Would you have liked having VAR during your illustrious career?
That's very kind. I'm a fan of it. I'm a fan of VAR when it's used for line decisions, not when it's used for opinions. Yes, I would have liked VAR for line decisions, offsides. Is it a goal? Is it not? Is it over the line? Is it in? I think the referee should be allowed to make a decision on his own, because too often we're seeing the referee's opinion on the pitch, the referee who's watching VAR impose his opinion on the referee. So now we've got two opinions instead of one opinion, and then he puts doubt in the referee's mind by asking him to go and look at it again. Unless we keep hearing this clear and obvious, I think it should be the referee on the pitch allowed to referee it, line decisions, but back to the original question, yes, I would have liked that. I would have liked it back in the day.
I like it where something clearly has happened and there's an appeal for handball or an appeal for foul in the box. And I like the fact that all the players still, they can't help themselves. They rush towards the referee. But I like the fact that you go, no, VAR will look. And if it's absolutely clear and it's a handball, or it's absolutely clear it's a foul, there will be something given.
Exactly.
I like that aspect of it.
That was the bit that's brought in for.
Yeah.
And it's I think in the World Cup I thought it was used excellently well. But it's changed the game. I mean, the game has evolved a lot, but I think VAR has now become the norm. We thought that VAR would take away that conversation in the pub on a Monday night about the weekend's football. I should have done this, should have done that. He was a mile offside, wasn't he? We thought it would eradicate that. It hasn't. Now we just talk about VAR.
Yeah. Everybody talks about VAR as well, but you referenced it, but no one talks about goal line technology. That's something better for goalkeepers. I always hop back to Frank Lampard, 2010 World Cup against Germany, where it's literally like halfway in the goal. That's a great addition. That's a brilliant.
When it works. But what was it last year, the year before? The goal at Aston Villa that cost...
I'm a Sheffield United fan, so don't talk about that.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, that's a sore point.
When technology fails.
They didn't turn it on. That's what happened.
Well, I was co-commentating at the Leeds Arsenal game at Ellen Road this year, and we had a 40-minute delay because it wasn't working.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's when technology fails.
You've heard the story at Aston Villa about so the watch goes off.
Yeah.
It buzzes. But when the goal for Sheffield United at Aston Villa, which was the first game back after the pandemic...
Can't call it a goal. It wasn't given. Go on.
I'm going to make these questions at the end of this extremely tough for you.
So go on, what happened with the watch?
It went off at half-time for the referee.
No.
Apparently that's what happened. And that is why there is never any footage of the ball and whether it went over. Nobody's ever seen a footage and a still of the ball, whether it was over the line or not, for that goal, because it wasn't turned on. Apparently someone turned it on at half time, and that's on the referee's watch bust. I'm not bitter about it at all. In the slightest.
I've not lost any sleep.
I've let it go. I had hair before we scored that goal. Anyway, another question for Paul. Here we go. Question from Alan V. Do you think the England team now have improved compared to your England team? We'll talk about your England career.
I think it's a different England team. Yeah, I mean, you look at the players now. I think my England team had a very, very strong 11, and we had a strong squad of players. But I think whether it was the manager at the time that was tactically naive, but I mean, the game's evolved. We played 4-4-2 or 4-4-1-1. There was very little flexibility in our formation. You look at the modern day managers now, you look at Pep, you look at Jurgen Klopp, you look at the top managers, the team evolves in a game. They go back 4, back 3, play one up front with 3 in behind, 1 up top, 2 in behind, 1 sitting midfielder. We played 4-4-2 and tried to get the best players into that system. So we'd have Joe Cole and Paul Scholes playing left wing simply because there was Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard and David Beckham. They played in the positions, and then we didn't have anyone really to play left wing, but we need to get him in the team, so he'll play there. Whereas if you look at the flexibility of a system now, there's a lot of talk that Frank Lampard and Steven Gerrard couldn't play together. I think they struggled in the system that we had. If one of them was deployed deeper, or one of them was on a pivot, one of them was slightly higher on the right-hand side, one of them was left in that more attacking role, I think it'd be different. I think the England team now has a lot of flexibility, and the squad is very strong.
Yeah. You mentioned Lampard, you mentioned Gerrard. That makes me think of one game that you were involved in for England. Do you know which one I'm possibly referring to? 2006 World Cup, of course.
Yeah.
You were involved in all games.
Yeah.
And it was the defeat against Portugal.
Yeah.
And for me, that is one of those games that's absolute stereotypical of what it's like supporting England.
It's our best performance of the tournament. We'd had a real slow start in that tournament. We'd qualified with ease as usual.
Yeah.
We hadn't been great in the tournament, but we'd got through. I don't think I'd conceded a goal in open play, I don't think, till that point. And then we went out on penalties. Wayne Rooney got sent off with the infamous Ronaldo incident.
Exactly. The wink as well. David Beckham came off in the start of the second half with an injury as well. So you lost David Beckham. You had Rooney sent off. I think there's also a shout for a clear foul for England in the box, which wasn't given.
But we dug in as a team, and the togetherness that came during that game, just had a feeling that we get to penalties here, we're going through. And hindsight's a great thing, and England have lost again on penalties. But I think that game, if we would have gone through, I think that was clearly the best performance, and the togetherness that the team would have had with a result there, could have potentially taken us on. And
I mentioned Lampard and Gerrard because they were 2 of the 3 guys that missed penalties, and they're the ones that you probably would have taken penalties, as we did. Lampard, Gerrard, they'll be fine, and they missed the penalties.
We practiced penalties for months.
What is that like when it goes to penalties? Do you feel the pressure as an England player going, oh, here we go again at penalties, we've not got the best of records, or is it, you know what, forget about what's happened before, this is a clean slate? I
was delighted. I mean, because of the game, we were down to 10 men, hung on, and I'm thinking, right, here we go, chance to be a hero, because the penalty shootouts that I've watched over the years, Euro 96 sticks out in the memory, David Seaman, just remembering what went back at home, the euphoria around that, and I'm thinking, right, this is my time. Me and my goalkeeping coach at the time, Ray Clements, we'd watched hours and hours of footage. If anyone had ever taken a penalty in that Portuguese team, I'd watched it. I knew there's no point in watching a penalty taker take a penalty when it's 4-0. They're 4-0 up. There's no pressure. You need to watch them take a penalty in a pressure situation. And then you edit all the footage down, and you find their go-to penalty, their safety penalty, the one that they go to if there's pressure on. So I knew what order they were coming up. I knew what their safety penalty was, and I knew what technique they were. I was so confident of saving penalties and getting through. I'm thinking, right, this is your moment. The problem that you've got now is with all the footage, the strikers, the defenders, whoever it is coming up, knows that you know that. It's now more of a mind game than ever, because they know that you know, and you know that they know. So they're walking up, and you're almost going, are you going to your favourite one? Are you going, or are you going to change your mind? So it's now more of a double bluff than ever. Like Ronaldo's go-to penalty, like his free kick, whips it high up to the goalkeeper's left.
Yeah.
So he's come to take the deciding penalty. I've flown off to my left thinking, right, I've got a chance. sticks in the other corner.
Brilliant. I want to say thank you. We're 45 minutes have gone already. It's absolutely flown by. I want to say one thing. We did have a number of questions about your Watford goal. We can only read out one. So if you did ask about the goal against Watford, even if we didn't read out the question, you will also win a 10 USDT free bet. So well done. We're going to move on now, but this is another chance for you to win a 10 USDT free bet. We're asking the question of how well do you know Paul Robinson? So this is Paul's pick. So this is where we asked you 3 questions before you came in today. Those questions, the answers to which people have been trying to guess. And if you get at least 2 out of 3 right, you win a 10 USDT free bet. If you got 3 out of 3 right, you definitely win a 10 USDT free bet. So question number 1 on Paul's pick. Which does Paul consider his best save? Is it Blackburn Rovers versus Norwich, Lewis grabbing header, which is unbelievable, point blank header, and you palm it away? Is it England versus Azerbaijan with Nadir Nabiev? Do you remember that game where it was played?
Was that away in Azerbaijan? Is that the one where the pitch invader run on and I tackled the pitch invader?
No, but tell me about that because I remember that.
That was funny. Yeah, it was. I've got some real good pictures of that at home. So this strange guy just runs on the pitch with a scarf like that, and he starts running at me. And he's, for no reason, the player's at the other end. He runs towards me and he starts going around the back of me. So it's horrible when people are obviously on the pitch, and then I'm kind of watching him go around like that, and I thought, right, I'm going to have him here. Stuck my leg out, fell down, and I just grabbed him in a big bear hug. And obviously I'm 6'4" and I ain't small. And there's this little Azerbaijani guy there. I just wanted to celebrate with his scarf. And there's a picture of me just holding him off the ground, waiting for the stewards to come on.
I can confirm. No, this was a Nadir Nabiev through goal. It was this was at Newcastle, St James's Park,
right,
where you played here. But I will tell you now, it was a 1-on-1, and you saved it comfortably. But that was a lot better save than what you described there.
You're giving away too many clues. If I can't remember it, it's not that one, is it?
England versus Wales, John Hartson header. You remember that one clearly?
Very well.
Yeah, that's a super save. That is wonderful crossing from the left-hand side. John Hartson heads it down, as they should, straight down, and you dive to your left and palm it away by your feet. Or the penalty shootout save against Swindon Town. And your answer is?
The England-Wales John Hartson header.
Yeah, John Hartson header at Cardiff as well.
Difficult,
World Cup qualifier.
World Cup qualifier, we won 1-0.
Yeah.
It was really good atmosphere, as it always is in the Millennium Stadium. Good. It was a good save. I don't mind saying it myself. He's headed it down and across me, and I've kind of picked it up on the half volley, moving across my goal. It's a decent one.
You know when you pull a save off like that,
yeah,
and then the game ends, are you quickly like going, I need to see that, I want to see that back? Honestly.
I used to hate watching myself,
Really?
and even now working in the media, I still dislike it.
Okay.
But I think there's a level of analysis that you need to do. Yeah. It's better off concentrating on what you didn't do right rather than what you did do right.
But you'd look forward to the analysis when you've pulled off a good save as opposed to making a mistake. Yeah, come on, bring on the analysis on that one.
Every Monday morning you'd have team meetings and you'd re-watch parts of the game, and if you'd kept a clean sheet, you just stroll in with your coffee on a Monday morning, sit down and go, right lads, let's have a look at you lot.
Brilliant. Question number 2 for Paul's pick. Here we go. Paul's favourite kit he played in. Is it the green night kit at Blackburn Rovers, the all black Puma at Spurs, the light blue Puma at Burnley, or the blue Umbro in the England squad? And your answer is?
The black one at Spurs, the black Puma kit at Tottenham. Which
I found out about 1 hour ago you had a say in.
Yeah, we as goalkeepers, you generally get a say as to colour. You get given colour charts before the season starts. The kit manufacturer will come in and he'll discuss with the goalkeeper. And quite often you get free rein, really, because goalkeeper shirts don't fly off the shelves as outfield kits do. And you get an opportunity to have a say in what you want. And for me, there's a little bit of a nod to Neville Southall there, because do you remember that NEC shirt Everton used to wear, the black one? He was the first goalkeeper to wear black because you couldn't because of the referees. So that was in my mind. I thought, black, Neville, that was the first one to first.
I never knew that goalkeepers had a say in their jersey or their gloves. I had no idea that this was a thing.
Some aren't interested. Some aren't bothered. Some will just turn up and play in whatever. But quite often, as the kit manufacturer designs the kit for next season, halfway through the season before, he'll come in. She'll come in, show the manager their thoughts for the next year's kit. They'll tweak little bits. Generally, the outfield kit is right. That's it. That's what you're having. We can make a couple of alterations. The goalkeeper's kit is right. That's the kit design. What do you think on colours?
Brilliant. Thank you. So if you've got both of these correct so far, you've won a 10 USDT free bet. But let's go for question number 3 of Paul's pick. Your goalkeeping hero was Peter Schmeichel, former guest and friend of the show on Behind the Bet at sportsbet.ao. Frank Swift, Manchester City goalkeeper pre and post World War II, considered one of the best goalkeepers along with Gordon Banks and Peter Shilton. Michel Prudhomme, who ex-Benfica and Belgium international goalkeeper, and Neville Southall. I think we may all know the answer to this one, but it's going to be Big Nev.
Yeah, I think we've covered that already today, haven't we? Yeah.
Well done. I can tell you now, we had well over 120, 130 people who have all won a 10 USDT free bet. So well done. That will be credited in your account in the next 48 hours. It is now time for Behind the Cause. So we have a €500 charity donation, which is going to Steps Worldwide or Steps Charity. It's the leading charity working for all those whose lives are affected by childhood lower limb conditions. Everything they do is about valuing and supporting individuals, families and carers affected by conditions that impact on the legs, hips and feet. And you've chosen this because of your son. Yeah,
my son was born with bilateral talipes. Which is clubfoot really to you and I. Basically, his feet were turned in and up. They grade it on a level of 1 to 5. He was a 5+ on both feet. We found out at the 20-week scan that he had this, and it's a side effect of many other much nastier, life-threatening diseases, illnesses. So when he came out, his feet were one of the last things we looked at. But the Steps charity, it's for families because it's not that well known. And all of a sudden, you go for a 20-week scan with a baby and you're told that it might not walk because its feet are deformed or in a certain way. And in a way where we were lucky because my boy was bilateral. He had it on both sides because one of the side effects are small feet and next to no calf muscles. So if you look at him now, he's 15 and he's in a size 7, where his mates are in 10s and 11s, and like the way kids are. And there's one guy who's playing professional sport who's doing it very well, John Rahm. He was born with exactly the same, golfer John Rahm. And if you watch him closely on the telly, you'll see his feet are a little bit smaller than most people's feet.
That's why his golf swing is as it is.
There must be some reason.
It is because of that, because of what he was born with. That's why his golf swing is not like a normal golf swing. It's more of a half backswing whipping through.
So the charity is just for families who find out this news, or they find out and they don't know where to turn. You don't know. You know, if you're told this, all of a sudden it's, well, where do I go? What do I do? And it's life impacting, and the charity do a fantastic job.
And your son right now is damn good at golf and damn good at football and at rugby and a lot of sports.
Considering that we didn't know whether he'd walk or not to where he's got now, with the help of the charity, the hospital and everything else, it's incredible.
So €500 donation is going to the Steps charity. That is safe. What I'm going to do now is take part in a bit of a quick quiz to win more money. Here we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you 10 questions. Each question you get right, there's a €50 donation on top of. So it's a chance to double the money.
No pressure then.
You ready? So these questions are sometimes just about football. A lot of them are just about you.
I'm not. So this is the part I've not been looking forward to. I'm not confident with this at all. You've probably got more on Wikipedia than I know.
Are you ready?
Well, yeah, go on.
Question number 1. What is your full name?
Paul William Robinson.
See, there you go, €50.
Oh, that's all right.
How easy is that? Hey? Question number 2. You made your debut against Chelsea for Leeds in October 1998. 0-0, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Who was the Chelsea goalkeeper that day?
Ed De Hoy.
€100 on
Was
top.
it?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I don't know where I pulled that from, by the way.
It's in there. Ed De Hoy is the right answer.
Can we stick to questions like the first one, please?
Well, that may come round again, you'll see. Question number 3. Peter Taylor was the first England manager to call you up to the England squad.
Yeah.
He also was the first England manager to name which player captain of England?
David Beckham away in Italy.
Yeah,
Juventus.
You see, you got it already.
Juventus' old ground.
€150. 3 out of 3. 6 goalkeepers have scored in the Premier League. You are one of them. Name 3 of the other 5.
Peter Schmeichel, Brad Friedel, Tim Howard, Asmir Begovic.
That's all right. Show off. 4 out of 5 then.
Is that all right?
That's fine. That's fine.
I was just covering bases in case
5
one of them,
out of 5.
in case one of them was in the cup. I just had to cover my bases.
Go for the 5th one, and it's the most recent one as well.
Oh, Alisson.
Hey, there you are.
Yeah.
Look at this. You're on fire. So that's an extra €200 on top already. You got 4 out of 4 right. So far, so good.
Yeah, not bad. I'm nervous because I can see your face.
In your first full season as Leeds United #1, the 02-03 season, which Leeds player, then aged 16, scored to become the then youngest ever player to score in the Premier League?
James Milner at Sunderland.
And he followed it up with a goal in the next game against...
No, just remember his first. His next one was obviously at home.
Yeah, scored in 2 consecutive games, 2-1 away at Sunderland and 2-0 at home to Chelsea.
Brilliant.
What's it like seeing James Milner still play now when you used to play with James Milner at Leeds?
I mean, he's just the epitome of how you should look after yourself. He's the epitome of a professional athlete on and off the field. I think he's just been an absolutely fantastic ambassador for the game.
Okay, brilliant. You've got all these right so far.
Don't say that.
Question number 6. In your first full season as Leeds United #1, which team did you beat at Ellen Road on the opening day of the season?
I remember the day because I had to change my shirt. The referee made me change my shirt on the pitch because it clashed with one of the colours of the away team. I was wearing, I think it was like a black and cream kit, and he made me change my shirt into like a yellowy white one. I can't remember. No, I've got no idea.
Do you want some clues?
Go on.
They're still a Premier League club.
Yeah.
And they're a fairly successful current Premier League club.
Manchester City.
Is the right answer.
Is it?
Yeah, with a little bit of help, I'll
maybe
give you
€25.
Do you know what the scoreline was?
No, not a clue.
3-0.
Right.
You don't know who scored then, do you?
No.
Nick Barmby on his debut, Mark Viduka and Robbie Keane.
It's not a bad list.
Question number 7. How many L's are there in your full name?
Is this well enough the back of David O'Leary's question? Just the one, I think. Are we going for the
full name?
Middle name as well?
Full name. How many L's in your name?
3.
Without hesitation. Nobody, by the way, has got 10 out of 10 right. David Seaman last time out got 9 out of 10 right, got question 10 wrong. You so far, with a little bit of help on question 6, got 7 out of 7.
Some
But
clues.
still allow it. It's all going for Steps Charity. It's all for a great cause.
Okay.
This one might catch you out. Which team, this is question 8, has conceded the most goals this season? Leeds in the Premier League or Blackburn in the Championship? That is a tough one, isn't it?
That's a tough question.
That's pretty much 50-50.
If you'd have asked about, I bet it's really close as well. I bet the numbers are really tight.
Yeah, it's quite tight.
If you look at it, Blackburn have lost so many games. That's the reason that they're not right at the top, because they either win or lose. I'm going to go Blackburn in the Championship because they either win or lose. But Leeds have got the worst home record for conceding goals. Leeds haven't really been smashed this year. Blackburn.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
Not changing your mind?
Don't do this to me. Do I need to change my mind? Obviously.
I'm not telling you, no. I'll take your first answer.
Go on, Blackburn.
So Leeds have conceded 33 goals so far this season in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Blackburn have conceded 35.
Yes. Do you know why I went with that? Because they got done last week against Rotherham 4, didn't they?
Yes, they
and
did.
And I can't
4-1.
remember Leeds getting that many
There
put
you
past
are.
them at once.
So well done. 8 out of 8 correct. Right. So, against which team, this is question number 9, against which team did you win a penalty for Blackburn Rovers? You went up for a corner late in the game and got kicked in the face.
Got kicked in the head.
Yes.
Still got the scar on my head.
Have you really?
Yeah, right in the middle there. Because after the game, all the blood was dribbling down my face.
That is a penalty-winning scar you've got on the top of your
scar,
head.
yeah. And I'm not a great big fan of needles, which obviously I had to tolerate later on in life. But at the time, I didn't want stitches, so I've just said to the doc, I said, Doc, I've got to go. I'm leaving. Just stick some glue in it. So he just roughly glued it together as I've come out the shower. And to my disappointment, it's awful. I can still feel it now. I should have just let him stitch it. But it was away against Wigan. And Yakubu scored the penalty.
And the game ended?
We drew. That was a draw. That was it 2-2?
3-3.
3-3. And it was David Jones who did it, who later ended up as my teammate at Burnley.
Brilliant. Love it. Question number 10. This is to get all right. Now, I've had word, okay, that if you get this right and it's €1,000, we'll double it to 2,000.
Oh, you can't do that to me.
Okay. Tough. We've just done it to you. So you ready?
Don't go changing the question.
I think you might actually get this quite okay. Question number 10. What did you do that caused the England versus Paraguay 2006? You know it, don't you?
Yeah.
You know it, don't you?
Yeah.
You're safe. Okay. What did you do that caused the England versus Paraguay 2006 World Cup game to be halted for a couple of minutes?
I hit the Jumbotron screen in the middle of the stadium with a kick out of my hands.
Which, for those, is that big, giant...
big square box in the middle.
Yeah.
The night before training, we all tried to do it. We all stood underneath it with a bag. When training had finished, Sven had walked off and had left us on the training field. All the lads normally do shooting or whatever. Now, we childishly wanted to see if we could hit the screen from underneath it.
And then you did during the game.
And quite aptly, it's a betting company that we're talking about. The amount of people that said, "Did you bet on that? You must have backed yourself." I mean, can you imagine walking into a bookies? I'll bet on Paul Robinson to hit the screen tomorrow. Oh yeah, he's not really told you he was going to do that. So, no, I certainly, one, didn't intend to, two, have any foresight of doing it. And it was just, we were 1-0 up at the time, and the time was running out. It was a case of kick it as high and as far as you could, and yeah, hit the Jumbotron.
Yeah, it did. And you've hit the jackpot, because that
Brilliant.
is 10 out of 10.
Fantastic.
You're the first person to get 10 out of 10. And courtesy of sportsbet.io, it's not €1,000 going to the Step charity. It's now 2,000. We're going to double it.
Extremely kind of you. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Mate, I want to say what a pleasure it's been. Thank you. I told you it would fly by. That's literally, we've got about 20 seconds left. So I want to say thank you for coming in and seeing us in the Clubhouse at sportsbet.io. And you're off golfing next week in Spain, I understand. So have a wonderful time over there.
Hopefully it's a little warmer.
It definitely will be a little bit warmer, mate. So thank you. It's been very good to
really
spend an hour in your company.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching as well, and stay tuned in the Clubhouse and watching Clubhouse TV for details of the next episode of Behind the Bet.